Not only did this season hunker down on its bad politics that I felt sure it would inevitably critique, the season was just bad. There were numerous scenes where the actors sounded like they were being held at gunpoint.
What, is she not good enough for you?
Sorry, what happened?
He'd been acting so strange, and he was arguing with my dad a lot.
I'm so sad and heartbroken for you.
There's straight up stagnant concept art in the foreground of several shots, and the camera just keeps cutting to it for some reason. Environments don't look fully finished, like maybe the lighting wasn't rendered correctly. The show has never been a feast for the eyes or anything, but it was always competent. This season is also boring to the point of utter listlessness. They keep doing this thing where they jump back and forth between two bland and lethargic scenes of endless talking. The very first episode cuts back to a boring-ass expositional conversation between Aaros, Claudia, and Terry like 3 or 4 times, during which time the sun rises from dawn to mid-morning, which makes you feel like you've been sitting around watching these idiots talk for several hours. And the scene it's sharing airtime with is a depressing, empty, grieving scene where the humans sit around mourning the loss of Catullus for apparently several hours. The characters might care, but the audience doesn't, because we have no sense of the suffering. There are no bodies, no injured refugees, no blood or fire. This is the first episode of the final season. Why am I being encouraged to take a nap in the first 15 minutes? The tension of the season effectively doesn't begin until episode 5, at the end of which our heroes learn that Aaros has returned. He's not up to anything in particular, but he's returned. An episode later, he completes one of the lamest evil plans I've ever seen, put a pin in that, and then immediately gets his corporeal vessel murdered because he turns his back on an archer who he knows is there. And then he gets captured by a 13-year-old who just learned that he was free a few hours prior. Like, Aaros doesn't even run away. He's got giant, long, sexy legs that go on for days, and he just stands there while a bunch of humans shoot him in the face with firecrackers. And then they trip him because he has the stupidity to keep getting closer to the exploding projectiles that are attacking his face. God damn it. However, by far the worst decision this season makes is this.
The West wasn't barren at all. Before the Mage Wars, the land was the same as all of Zadia. The mages became warlords. Their armies scoured the lands for magic and bled it dry. The wars only stopped when there was nothing left to fight for. All the magical resources were consumed or destroyed.
Yikes. This is an even lazier equivalent of Arcane's little "the multiverse will prove that we were right all along" shtick. So, as I've discussed in my other Dragon Prince videos, this show did a good amount of subtextual work in its early seasons to portray humans as an oppressed minority. They're a diaspora population sent to a foreign land that we are led to believe is quite barren. Is it by divine providence that humans have no connection to magic? No, the story tells us, because Callum actually exceeds an assumed limit imposed upon him by those with the power of magic on their side. He learns 2 Arcanum, while most elf mages can only understand 1. Something was keeping humans from understanding magic, but it wasn't biology, clearly. The pain of humanity is something that was done to them, and they have to struggle with the assumed limits to overtake them. The human spirit is no less profound than the elf's spirit, but our depth is in our limits, and the struggle to surpass them. Maybe it was wrong of Harrow to kill the Magma Titan to save 100,000 people, but just by doing it and regretting it later, he struggles against a boundary and overtakes it, setting down a story that his sons will have to interpret in the light of their own struggles. I felt that this suffering was really well represented through dark magic. Dark magic isn't divine, it doesn't draw power from innate pure power sources. It comes with a cost. Much is made in the first season about the need to pay the blood price for its use, but that doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't use it. It means you should know the cost. And yet, in this one moment, a human proves to another human that human beings are the vulgar, greedy, base creatures that the elves believe that they are. When Karim says this,
Your beliefs came from fear. Mine come from knowledge. You humans are vermin, a plague. You take and will not be satisfied until our history and culture are dust in the desert wind.
He's just straight up correct. It turns out that humans, in their insolent whining to the stars for rage and pain at their innate unworthiness, cause mass self-destruction, grief, and pain because we have no sense of refinement, no connection to the sublime or the ethereal. Uncultivated savages that strip the land of all beauty and nourishment without thought. If I have any Native American viewers, I'd be curious about your thoughts on this. One might be tempted to think that the writers were doing a little colonizers destroying native habitats shtick in a European to Native American allegory. But to me, it feels like the closest parallel statement is an implication that the natives were using the land wrong. Tell me what you think. Some people really are born with a tether to the numinous, and some are merely beasts with a clever aptitude for language. And which side you're on is determined by blood. It's not that all humans can access magic with proper instruction and self-discovery. Apparently someone in his bloodline had the pleasure of being fucked by an elf. Or some other magical creature. Probably a bird. Let's return to our boy Aaros. During his "we're just the same, you and I" villain speech with Ezrin, he makes a comment that I actually really resonated with. Actually, that should be no surprise to you if you've seen my other Dragon Prince videos. Aaros is the main character of the Dragon Prince. I dare you to prove me wrong. He has this habit of offhandedly making really thought-provoking statements that no one else can keep up with. Like, there's this one line where he says, "This world was made by cruel, unfeeling hands." And I just wrote in my notes, I really like Aaros. Like, go off, that's true, and he should say it, and it should be addressed. But that's not the line I was talking about.
What you taught those people was dark magic. You didn't save them, you corrupted them.
You call it corruption. I call it compromise. It is the nature of children to think the world must be one way or another. With maturity, we learn that most of life is lived in the space between. I merely helped humanity mature so they could be free. Wasn't that worth some compromise?
They're really hunkering down on the use of the term compromise, where I don't really think it fits. To be honest, it feels like they're hoping the use of the word compromise puts a bad taste in our mouths. Like, we'll think of Neville Chamberlain or the DNC, but a far better term in this situation would be bargain or trade. We're not leaving behind ideas of good and bad to meet somewhere in the middle. Rather, we're giving away moral assuredness for the slim chance at grasping at something beyond. Harrow can be morally assured that sharing the weight of suffering with Durin is good, but maybe there is a good beyond assuredness that may require more risk. Moving forward is a risk. Without God's word to tell us what is right, we have to triumph over God.